It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thank you for making us a part of your weekend. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles, my normal co-host, not with us today. He is calling high school boys soccer. It's a state championship weekend for the 3A and 2A. Morgan versus Ogden, the 3A game. That championship round will be at 11. And then the 2A state championship, American Heritage versus Mazer Prep. That game starts at 2. So go check those out at kslsports.com. Our guy Alex is great on the call, as always, but flying solo today. Sean producing behind the glass. Sean, what's up, man?
How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Have a good week?
Yeah. Good week. You?
Very good, yeah. Went to Lagoon last Sunday.
Okay.
That was nice. It was a great time with the little nephews and niece. So,
do you frequent Lagoon?
Yeah, just ever since my brother had kids, I go there all the time.
Okay.
My mom gets the whole family season passes.
Yeah.
We just go whenever.
Man, in high school, I would get a season pass every summer. So for like 3 summers in a row, I would go to Lagoon like
Same.
every week.
Same.
It was a lot. And now I'm kind of sick of it almost, because I went
understand.
so many times.
No, I understand.
But Lagoon's fun, especially this time of year. Did you hit Rattlesnake Rapids? Is it hot enough yet for that ride, or?
Not last week, no.
Yeah.
But that is a favorite of the nephews,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a great one. Well, cool, man. Yeah, happy for you. Highlight of my week. I don't know if I really have anything that stands out. Well, it was just a lot of fun here on the station. We had a lot of big news. We'll jump into all of it. Probably the Utah Mammoth announcement was the biggest thing, and I think that was very exciting. We'll talk about that later. Before we get going on the show, though, a little bit of breaking news before the show got started. New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr has announced that he is retiring. He's got a lingering shoulder injury that would require surgery, and if he got that surgery, it would knock him out for the entire 2025 season anyway. He's tried rehab. He's tried injections. Nothing has been working for him, so he is just retiring. Longtime Raider, of course. He's made 4 Pro Bowls in his career. That 2017 season, I want to say, was really special for him. He was in MVP conversations, and then he broke his leg. Was never really the same since, but he's always been a gamer. I mean, I think he has like 35 game-winning drives in his career, so he had a solid career, and much needed salary cap relief for the New Orleans Saints with this move. I almost wonder if Derek Carr is going to unretire eventually, maybe use this as a loophole, kind of like what Gronk did, right? He retired for a little bit and then came back and played. I almost wonder if this is one of those moves, because the Saints really needed money, and I think both sides kind of wanted to move on here.
Yeah, and if he's not going to play this year, then
yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So this leaves a quarterback room essentially of Tyler Shuff. They just barely drafted him out of Louisville. Second-round pick a couple weeks ago. So he's a rookie second-rounder there. And then Spencer Rattler, who they drafted last year. And that's pretty much it. I don't know if they're going to bring in a vet or just roll with the young guys, but big news for the Saints. Of course, there's always NFL news going around, but we'll get that out of the way and jump right into things. As I mentioned, big week here on the show. The Utah Jazz kind of got things started. They announced they were extending head coach Will Hardy through the 2031 season. Kind of a peculiar move because he was already under contract through the 2026-27 season. He had 2 years left, and they decided to extend him anyways. Long story short, Will Hardy hasn't had the opportunity to win games for the Jazz. Essentially, ever since he's been here, the job has been lose games, get us a high draft pick. And that's what he's been doing. He's been a good soldier about it. Obviously, they finished this year with the worst record in the NBA. Can't do better than that, right? He's doing everything that they're asking him to do. So this is essentially the front office kind of rewarding that and saying, hey, we want to give you some long-term stability, right? You have come in, and this has been such a hard job for you because, of course, coaches want to win games, right? It goes against everything they know to lose games on purpose, or maybe the better way to put it is not try to win games, right? That goes against everything in the coach's DNA. So that's been tough for him, and the Jazz are kind of rewarding him, saying, you know what? We envision being out of this rebuild by that 2026-27 season, right? So this extension is going to give Will Hardy the opportunity to actually win basketball games once they come out of that rebuild. So it's good to see Will Hardy get rewarded, because it's been really tough.
Yeah, I really like Will Hardy. Just how thoughtful he is in press conferences, and just you can tell he really cares. At least that he exudes that when he's talking about the Jazz and the players.
He does really care, and he's given us some great sound bites. They love the culture that he's brought in with the team. They like what he's establishing here in Salt Lake City. So, again, he's never really showed on the court. You know, he's never had the opportunity to go out and win games, and that's the bottom line. So this extension is going to allow him to do that, but not right away. We know next season is probably going to be tough again, and then they will start winning games. So we'll hit a little bit more on that later. But to start the show off officially, I want to replay Ryan Smith. He joined Hans and Scotty earlier in the week. It was Thursday, and there was just a lot of news. The Utah Mammoth, of course, the name change there. And actually going back to them, they had the NHL draft lottery. They moved up from pick number 14 all the way up to number 4. So that's a big move. Ryan Smith joined Hans and Scotty Thursday to talk about everything, and here's that conversation.
Joining us now, he is the owner of the Utah Jazz and now the Utah Mammoth. Ryan Smith, kind enough to join us. Ryan, how are you?
Hey, Ryan.
What's up, fellas? It sounds kind of cool, huh?
It does.
Mammoth?
Yeah.
Oh,
You like it?
Killed it.
It's rolling.
Yeah.
We can work with that.
You know, it's just because, you know, you're on the air and you say it all the time and you get kind of that muscle memory for Utah Hockey Club. But yeah, Mammoth, yeah. I know this has been a long process. What's it been like behind the scenes putting something like this together?
You know, look, first of all, like, it takes a lot to be willing to kind of throw that out there and let the fans name the team, because it's going to test your conviction of that, like, pretty detailed. Primarily because, you know, anytime you throw something out on the internet, you know, a lot can happen. You know, and you know, it's not just words. I mean, with AI right now, someone's like, oh, you know, this is what it should be. Oh, and like this, right? And 5 minutes later, they come up with something that like a human hand could never even come up with. So I'm just super proud of our group for being very open, being committed to go with where the fans want to go, even though personally, I mean, you've got a lot of opinions around the group, from the design team to the group we hired externally. There's a lot of opinions there. And, you know, our fans made it super. When we got down to 3, our fans made it super easy for us. Like they go ahead.
How many votes was there?
We were close to 1 million. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And, you know, when we took the iPads around the arena with the final votes and attached, you know, pretty much full branding to them, which took a lot of work because we were basically building out what would be the identity of multiple different, you know, options. And then, you know, you've got to go and do the trademarks with all those at the same time. It wasn't like we went and created the identity of one team. Like, we did it for all of the options, because nothing can be worse than getting down to the end, choosing it, and being like, hey, we don't have the URLs and the signal and everything else, or the logos, and we can't do that. And, you know, obviously some people had Google Glass or were looking at it, but, you know, it was really cool that, you know, we had that home stretch in February that we had kind of circled, which was like 11 games in Utah, which, by the way, was so freaking awesome. Like 11 back-to-back where we're switching the court to the ice every night. And, you know, that was kind of the moment where Mammoth just took off. And we're like, okay, like, we've never seen in any of this, like this. I said it yesterday in the presser, because I was watching the Derby last week, and like when a horse starts pulling away, it's like there's nothing stopping it. And that's when it was like, that's it.
When you see the Easter eggs and they present, the final logo and say, this is what we put in, it's so much of what you wanted to build here with these teams has been Utah-centric. How much pride do you take in that?
Yeah, it was something that the cool part is we were all part of the design process. I was at least on like 200 calls, like everyone was. And, the state, like the amount of work to get that state right with the M in the bottom of it. And then, having gone through the jersey process for the Jazz, right when we came in and just knowing what, how long and hard that process is, and then finally getting all of our jerseys to a uniform color, uniform design, where the mountain is the connector that we can authentically own in the NBA. They're not going to give that away to anyone else. It's like Michigan's colors are like they're theirs, right? We own that mountain, and to be able to incorporate that here is pretty cool. And so we've got our Jazz jerseys, the white ones coming out this year, and then our form's set. Like, we'd love to just keep the branding the way it is all the way. It's taken a long time to kind of bring it all back in. But that's just the process it takes. And that's the other hard part about this is, like, we're sitting there in February going, okay, we've got to let the NHL know kind of where we're at here, because the lead time to get this done. And unfortunately, we have a great relationship. I'm pretty close to Michael Rubin of Fanatics, and, they were willing to do unnatural things to get us up this year so we could actually let the voting finish out, which is pretty cool.
Ryan, people that are in your situation amaze me because, you're sitting here dealing with logos and renaming, but then you're dealing with Delta Center rebuilding, and then you're dealing with NHL lottery, and you've got NBA lottery. You've got all these irons in the fire, but here we've got a fence around the Delta Center, and this thing is rebuilding, remodeling. How much day-to-day input and work is that for you in this remodel, and where are we at with this whole thing?
Yeah, so first of all, the way we've set up SCG with the people that we have, it's incredible. They have it's about as entrepreneurial as it gets for our teams. And Jim Olson, who you guys know, president of the Jazz, is leading all the remodel there. And he did a little bit of. He's been there. He ran Delta Center for a long time, and I was in there yesterday walking with him. I've got at least one call a day where we're going through stuff, but it's interesting because this is a 3-year process. I wish you could take longer and really go through the design more, but it's like, hey, no, we got to go. We're doing only lower bowl this time, and then we'll go from one side to the other, and then we're changing it. We're trying to keep the intimacy of Delta Center with the sight lines they are without blasting everything out and moving it back 50 feet like a lot of these arenas do. So when you're behind the hoop, you can't see over the person in front of you because it's so flat. And, I think that's what we've been able to accomplish by basically going riser all the way up, which is really cool because we have the ability to kind of walk in and say, okay, it's hockey, press button 2, and it all configures, right? It's like one of those transformers. And then hey, press button 1 and it goes. And it's kind of the only way to make it work. And so it's been pretty creative. But and also every time you go in there, this is a 30-year-old building. Every time you go in, you get in there and you're messing with the core of it. You've got to be very, very thoughtful on, architecture and, earthquake compliant, everything else. It's pretty good. Guys are going around the clock.
So Hans and I do a lot of remotes down in Sandy, and it seems like every time we drive past 106 and see that new facility going up, it's like, wow, I can't believe what has been done in a week. I can't believe what's been done in 2 weeks. That sucker's going to be ready come the beginning of fall for the Utah Mammoth. Just how much fun is that to be a part of and to really build out something that's never really been built at that scale here in the state of Utah before? Yeah,
Southtown, you might as well. We're going to call that Sports Town because it's this thing like these facilities definitely attract a lot of things, and it's probably going to be the number one place that our community interacts with our brands, and it's really cool because I think in talking to all the folks in Sandy, it's kind of been like, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do with this mall? Like it's just not vibrant, and to be able to walk in and kind of revitalize like how we see this, and it also, I think what's kind of going under the radar a little bit is it's going to provide a big anchor to South Salt Lake, right? And our players, when they come into town, often because everything is centralized in downtown, they kind of have to live in that sort of close area. It's weird when we have a player that lives down it's uncommon when they live down in like South Jordan or Draper or Sandy. I think if you look at where we're going, the experience people are going to be having who are not from here in Utah is going to be able to kind of straddle that whole bench all the way down on both sides of the freeway. And that's a different experience. Our hockey team, for example, they all want to live right by the facility. And so it really changes and sets us up to really kind of almost have like dual hubs in the city. And there's a lot of cities like that, like Dallas. We had an office in Legacy, and then there was obviously Arlington, and then what happened in downtown. Denver's very much that way, where, I remember working in college right before I started Qualtrics at the Tech Center right there, where you kind of had barbells within the city, and just people could come and have different options. Whereas like right now, when we always relocated people either for tech or whatever, and they were living in Salt Lake, it would be like, okay, we're going to go up into the Sugar House area. We're going to go here. Like it gives this ability to experience way more of our state the way that maybe some of us experience it as well. So it's really, it's really going to be a positive in ways that I don't think that we even know yet.
So after that completes and the Delta Center gets underway and is kind of down the line, what is the timeline and vision of the downtown reimaging look like for you, Ryan? Just is that 3 years that you gave us, or 3.5 years? Does that include downtown rebuild, or are we talking about quite a ways out?
No, I mean, I think in 3 years we'll definitely be underway, so you'll be able to see kind of how it comes together, where we'll be doing that. But there's a lot of work. I mean, the prep work downtown's real. We've got a building and a block, a lot of the block that we purchased, so that's got to come down, and that's going to take a little bit of time. And then our goal is just to really be able to make that experience that you kind of get inside the Delta Center be able to happen outside. So when someone comes, they're not coming into the city at 6:45, coming to a game and running to their cars at night and like hopping out of here. And so we believe that there's a way better experience that we can be offering as a city of Salt Lake and a state. If you think about what goes on in downtown, there's not a lot that's what we have in common with some of the other cities of that same size, because of either industry that's there, where there's just flow and activity all the time. When there's a big convention, we see it, or we saw it at All-Star, where, we want it vibrant. And, I think that we know that it will work, primarily because of the feedback we're getting from business owners down there. The amount of business owners who I've spoken with who said, I cannot explain what bringing hockey has done to my business. We never thought we would see it. And it's because that many more people are coming down, during those games. And so I think that that's going to be a a real unique, opportunity, because if you look at Salt Lake across from Delta Center, on the top part of where Delta Center is, you have, our blocks that are controlled and owned by the church. On the other side, you've got what used to be Gateway, and those kind of, for all intents and purposes, serve as walls. And then on the other side, you've got, the convention center. And so the ability to come out of Nordstrom's and just walk straight through the middle all the way down to Delta Center and just kind of have that paseo there is pretty powerful. And then the amount of brands, which I think is also important, that we can attract these brands to Utah. These are brands the same way that we were able to attract an NHL team where people didn't think it was possible. Well, what brands do we think we can get here? And this isn't retail. We're not trying to say, hey, let's get a Gucci or whatever it is. It's much more around, hey, what type of hotels, what type of entertainment, where is it that would give us, like, hey, this is where we want to go to lunch and go around. And so a place where we just want to gather and families can be. And so that's the vision of it. I'm kind of giving you the whole vision across everything that we have going. But I think the stage is set. And if you look at, someone coming in town, they're staying in the Hyatt there, they're staying in the Marriott, like, what's their experience? What's their experience when they wake up in the morning and they don't have a meeting till 10 o'clock? Where are they going? What are they going to do? What's our players' experience? We bring someone in for the Jazz. I mean, I'm looking out right now over the court, and we've got all these guys in here for pre-draft workouts. Like, a lot of them have never been to our state before. And so what is their experience this morning?
So you talk about the NBA draft and workouts and things like that. Monday is certainly a big day. What kind of good vibes can we put out there that we can recreate, hopefully, what happened with the Utah Mammoth? See, look, I screwed it up again, man. Holy smokes.
Well, look, I don't think I think you guys are doing it. You're all doing it. I think we all want these vibes. It's been something that, right or wrong, I mean, we've never moved up. And so, why not this year? Why not us? Right. And I think that's kind of how we feel. And, I think we're due. I think this is a good draft, and, we're in a good position. We're guaranteed a top 5 pick, and, obviously everyone wants number 1. My lucky charm, Ashley, is going to go represent Jazz, in there.
Hey,
I think she'll be the first woman who's ever done that. I just broke that to you guys right now.
Nice.
Whoa.
Right. I'll probably get in trouble for that because I'm sure the league's going to come out with who's representing us. But look, she's always been good luck for me, and she was down for it. I haven't been able to grab it. Ainge didn't get it. So it's like, let's break the mold. And, she's a big part of this. And so it's pretty cool. And that'll be a cool thing. So,
wow. How did she feel about this?
I don't know. It took we had to it's a little bit like when you you've got to have like a intricate conversation, and you got to hit it from a couple different angles. So Ainge helped me a little. It's like, we got to get Ash there. That's what's going to and so we kind of tried to have it kind of be something that we all came up with together. But look, she's all in, and she wants to be able to watch this, so she's willing to go through that because it's a lot. It's a lot to take on, and she's a gamer, and she's down, and that's why I love her.
Well, that's actually some big news, because jumping up to that 4 pick, it was incredible. Scotty and I were watching Bill Armstrong live when the 4 pick came in, and it took his breath out. Like it looked like he had jumped into a cold pool, Ryan. Like he could not breathe because of the impact that plays for him. And I've been trying to put into terms what this lottery means to our state and the SEG, and to us as sports entertainment alone, how do you even quantify a number one overall pick?
Yeah. I mean, and no one knows. Like, no one knows in this draft. I mean, there's, you know, as you kind of look in the playoffs and you look at who's coming out and tearing it up, like where people are, you know, you don't know if you're 5 or 7 years from now who the best players in the drafts are. It's never a science. But like, I think for me, it's definitely, you know, it would definitely be a moment in Utah's history, right? And I think we've had a lot of good momentum building in Utah. You know, I was just on McAfee before this, and, you know, they said, hey, how do you feel about the draft? What's going on? What do you think about being a small market? I just don't, you know, you've heard me say this before, we're not a small market. Like, we just don't have anything in common with the small markets. And I think that we need a moment or two, and right or wrong in the NBA, you just got to have some good fortune. You know, you can talk about your abilities all you want. You can bring in the best team. You can bring it. Like, you've got to get some good fortune. And, you know, the Spurs obviously got that, you know, 2 years ago. And you can, I mean, great. Like, you get the pick and you get Wemby. Like, that's pretty incredible. Like, what's there not to know, right? Like, you know, and so I think, you know, are we due some good fortune? I mean, definitely the story of where we are as a state and everything else is lining up for that.
Well, I got to tell you, in order to bring goodwill to the Utah Jazz, signing Will Hardy to a long extension, why are you squinting, Scotty? Was that not too funny?
We might, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Bringing goodwill, signing Will Hardy.
I like it, man.
The Will Hardy extension, Ryan, man, what an amazing thing for this team.
Yeah, and it just shows. I mean, that's. I mean, we're trying to build as much continuity as we can. I feel like Will has been such an incredible. You guys are up close and you see it. Such an incredible partner and ambassador. He's a heck of a basketball coach, and he signed up to do what, you know, is in some ways a little hard, where we're rolling with, you know, I don't know, what is it, 9 guys under the age of 23, and he's gonna develop these guys. And, you know, I think it's important for us. You know, we like Will more today than we did when we hired him. That, you know, he's a gamer. He's all in. It's how a culture and a vibe should feel between my position and Danny and Jay-Z and Will. You know, I'm around it all day long. I see it all day long. It's probably hard for fans maybe that don't see things from the outside, like, all the way. But, you know, we're going to win with Will, and we're going to win in Utah. And I want him to be able to see the work pay off as we start pulling out of a rebuild.
Ryan Smith joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I am a little curious. When you acquired the hockey club from Arizona and you sent out the pre-orders for tickets, and I think you said the number was anywhere from like 85 to 90%. There weren't a lot of crossovers between the NBA as well as hockey. Now that you have a full season of sample size under your belt, did you see that trend hold out, that the fans that were going to the Utah Hockey Club were a little different than what you saw from Jazz games?
I mean, you know, I can turn this back on Hans a little, like, because you've been to a couple games and I've had a chance to sit with you and talk through it. Like, this isn't like, oh, there's a new thing. It just doesn't feel like, oh, there's a new thing in town. Let's get it. It's like when Hamilton goes to the Eccles Theater. That's not what this is. It's like we have true hockey fans. Like, they are in love with the game. It's the ultimate team game, and they're in love with everything it stands for. And that's the part that I didn't anticipate. I didn't anticipate that the women in Utah would love hockey.
Yeah.
I didn't think through that all the way. It's not like I said, hey, I was thinking through that, but it's invigorating. It's contagious. And this is very different than, hey, we own a team because we own a team of one of the leagues. It's like, no, I love being there. I'm happy when I'm there. And I love rooting for it. I don't know, Hans, what do you think? Because we had those conversations in depth at the games.
Yeah, I would say the same. And to your point, I did bring the boys to one game, and I heard a lot of it from my wife. And she was like, I don't understand. Like, if you're going to go to the game, I'm going. And I'm like, she doesn't go to football games. She doesn't go to basketball games. She doesn't go to baseball. She loves hockey. And you walk around the arena and you're like, geez, it is packed with the female audience. They love hockey. And I thought that was a unique part of the crowd. And then the other unique thing was just the sheer volume of opposing fan base that was in that arena. That, they probably live here in Utah, but they've been lifelong Avalanche, or they've been over the last 8 years Vegas Knights fans, but that arena is packed full of NHL fans. And now that they got the Mammoth gear, I think eventually Mammoth fans are going to pinch them out as much as they can. But, Ryan, just to see the NHL fan travel to that arena while we're sitting there watching that thing was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's the hockey fans travel. They come in, and, our governor went up to Canada on a trade mission, and I think he told me, I saw him. He's like, I'd been doing this, or I'd been up there a bunch, and the amount of hockey questions, it's like completely changed it.
Yeah.
Because of Utah, and the fans are aware of who's in their league now. They want to come see the arena. They want to hear. Everyone wants to come to Delta Center once, and that's one of the things we're seeing. And so, we know we have, mountain basketball, and we're a hoop city, and this is what we do, and we've got hockey now rolling, and the synergies between them are pretty special. It's a good time to be in Utah.
There you go. Utah Jazz and Utah Mammoth owner Ryan Smith joined Hans and Scotty on Thursday to talk about the Utah Mammoth name change, the Delta Center renovations, the Utah Jazz upcoming draft lottery, and just everything that bringing hockey to Utah has done for Salt Lake City and really the entire state. So anytime you can hear from the owner himself, always a great opportunity. Coming up next, though, we're going to give kind of some takeaways to that conversation because it was very thorough. There was a lot of takeaway. And we'll hit that next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles not here today. He is calling high school soccer games, flying solo. But you just heard Ryan Smith in his interview with Hans and Scotty earlier this week that took place on Thursday. He talked about a lot of things. Obviously, the Utah Mammoth, the official announcement that was going to be the name and the branding going forward for a brand new hockey team. That was huge. And then we've got the NBA lottery coming up Monday. NHL lottery was last Monday. So a lot of news here on the station, and Ryan Smith was here to talk about all of it. Couple takeaways. My first big one, obviously, Ryan making the announcement that his wife, Ashley Smith, is going to be representing the Utah Jazz Monday night at the lottery. I thought that was big. First off, it was funny because, like he said, he was on Pat McAfee, the big ESPN show, literally 15 minutes before he was on Hans and Scotty, and he did not break that news there. It had been something that everybody locally was wondering, who is going to represent the Jazz at the lottery, and then he comes on Hans and Scotty and he says, hey, yeah, we're going to send Ashley. Don't know if I'm supposed to be revealing that yet. Hopefully the league does not get mad, but great stuff there from Ryan and Ashley, the power couple here, owners of SEG. And hopefully Ashley can bring us some much needed good luck because Monday night aside from the actual draft at the end of June, Monday night, the lottery, is one of the biggest nights in recent Utah sports history.
It's massive.
They can't make the pick until the draft, but if they beat the odds, if they end up with that number 1 pick, 14% chance, that changes everything. It turns the franchise around in a way that you can't really do without that number 1 pick, because then to go get a franchise player, you have to either wait a year until next year's draft, or you have to spend assets and go trade for somebody. So being able to get the number 1 pick this year and then get another high draft pick next year and then still have all your assets, that would be so big. And we need all the good luck we can get here in Salt Lake City. So Ryan is sending Ashley to Chicago. Another big takeaway I really liked is he brought up that he didn't say that he was offended, but he was borderline offended, I feel like, when Pat McAfee brought up Utah being a small market.
Oh, yeah.
Do not call us a small market.
We've got nothing in common with small markets.
No, nothing in common. And he mentioned that Utah, one of the fastest growing states in the country. The economy here is doing really well. We showed that we can support both an NBA team and an NHL team, and attendance numbers for both of those franchises were off the charts all season long. And he also mentioned there's not a lot of crossover either. So it's not just the same people going to Jazz and Utah Mammoth games. People are hungry for sports here, and people want to spend their money on sports here. So lumping us in with other small markets, Ryan Smith does not really agree with that. And I think that shows kind of how defensive he gets and how much he just loves Utah and in Salt Lake City, and again, this market, because he's willing to go to bat for us. And I really like that about the owner. I think he has made it clear several times that he's not just in this for himself. It's not just a personal investment. He really wants to see both of these franchises do well. And he knows what that would mean for everybody here in the state of Utah, Salt Lake City, everybody in the valley, basically from Logan down to St. George. That would be huge.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to hear, just because most owners they're just in it for the money.
Right.
They do not care what city they're in, who they're representing, any of that. And it seems like Ryan Smith really takes pride in Utah, in the people of Utah, all of it. Homegrown,
baby. That's how it is. And then he also talked a little bit, of course, about the Utah Mammoth, that big announcement. That was such a fun rollout. They released a little video kind of explaining, obviously Mammoth has ties to Utah because they found fossils here, and it really ties into the whole, ice hockey and the ice theme and the colors that they had already established. So he talked about that name and the process that went into it, and he said they had almost 1 million total votes on all the surveys that he did throughout that whole process. He did mention that he doesn't know if he would do that again because it was kind of a mess. And I like that he brought up, it's easy for somebody to just plug into AI or Chat GPT or whatever. Hey, give me a logo of what a Utah Mammoth sports team would look like. And then say, hey, Ryan, your logo sucks. This is what it should look like. So that was something that, it's hard to please everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the local sentiment, I felt like it was overall positive about the logo.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of people outside that just say that it looks kind of, I don't know.
They say it looks
Mickey
like
Mouse
it from a
or-
video game.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you'll buy the
Create a
NHL
team.
video games, and there's a create a team option, and they have all these logos that are pre-generated and loaded into it. And that's kind of the biggest negative I've seen, like you're mentioning, nationally. People are saying this looks like a create a team logo, but who cares? I like it, and everybody here likes it, and I think that's what matters most. I think people were really stoked about the branding. Locally, the biggest knock that I've heard, a lot of people have asked me, why is it Mammoth and not Mammoths, right?
Yeah.
From what I've kind of been told and brought to understand is, number one, Mammoth is already kind of a mouthful to say. There's a lot of consonants in there, and adding the S just doesn't flow exactly right.
Instantly makes you sound like you have a lisp almost.
A little bit.
Mammoths.
Right. It's clunky.
Doesn't roll.
And then on top of that, keeping it singular to Mammoth, it kind of allows you to do the double meaning kind of thing where you can say mammoth meaning size.
Yeah.
You know, grand and large and big and intimidating. So there's kind of a play on that double meaning there. And I've seen some people like actually really annoyed and really upset that it's singular, which I think is a really funny thing to get upset about.
I know. It's a lot of people don't like teams not being pluralized.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand that at all. Because
like, really, that's what you're going to get worked up about?
Well, yeah, and then in the video they mentioned that it's one team, it's one mammoth.
Right.
To collectively
exactly.
we are a mammoth.
The team is the mammoth, and it's also, again, going back to the double meaning thing. It's intimidating, it's big. So I like it. In recent, history, Seattle Kraken, right? They're singular. There's no S there. And then on top of that, mammoth, maybe it's like deer or moose or whatever, where the plural just doesn't have an S. Like, does it really matter? So I think that was really funny. But overall, super excited. I like all the branding. I've seen a ton of gear already. They've been selling gear immediately. I like the new font. I believe they're calling it the Mammoth Sands or something like that. And I like the U with the tusk coming out of it. The whole tusks up. # Really fun.
Yeah.
And I think the sweaters look really good. I like that they kept the white jersey with the diagonal Utah.
Yeah.
And then they're putting the Mammoth logo on the black one. Because I think it's important to keep something around from the inaugural season, right? Because that was so special. And getting rid of that immediately, I think, would be a mistake. But holding on to it, I think would be cool.
Yeah, I think they also have that state outline with the hockey stick that also has
that's my
UTH.
favorite logo. Yeah.
And that kind of throws back a little bit to that
Yeah.
logo last year that was on the sweater.
So cool. And overall, I think it looks really clean. And again,
Yeah.
I love the colors. I think that was a great decision initially with the rock black, mountain blue, and salt white is what they're calling it. And again, that just goes hand in hand with the mammoth. And
Yeah.
last little detail that I really enjoyed from that video, there was a little girl in the video holding a Stanley cup in her hand.
I didn't even notice that.
No detail goes without thought going into it, because who's Stanley's biggest competitor?
The Yeti.
The Yeti. And who blocked SEG from getting the Yeti name?
I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody, because again, it's the whole Chekhov's gun theory, like in movies. Like anything that's introduced is there for a reason. It's important. So you make this little teaser video, no detail is in there without thought. So I loved that. That was my favorite part. The Utah Mammoth, speaking of lotteries, they had their own luck revisiting this. They jumped from number 14 to number 4 in the NHL draft lottery. They actually won the number 2 overall pick in the lottery, but the highest, you can only jump 10 spots with the NHL, the way they do their lottery. So instead of jumping to 2, they jumped all the way to 4, which regardless is a huge jump, because you go into this, you have a 95% chance of picking number 14. So you assume that's where you're going to be. You're looking at that point at like the 3rd or 4th tier of prospects in the draft. Moving all the way up to number 4, now you're like, okay, we are going to get one of the best players in this draft.
Yep.
And that's huge for a team that was literally on the doorstep of making the Stanley Cup playoffs. Adding a player, of course, we know in the NHL they're not going to contribute right away. We're going to see them a couple years down the line when they start to make an impact. But regardless, that's another asset to have and another thing to bring in for the future of this team and all the momentum going forward. I have seen some people wondering, hey, maybe a trade comes available and they're able to trade that number 4 overall pick and make a big move this summer. I don't know if Bill Armstrong is ready to be that aggressive quite yet, but it is an option. And if it could help you bring in somebody that that really puts you over the top this year, along with whatever else you're able to do in free agency, $22 million or something like that. A lot of fun money to spend. So this team is ready to take the next step forward next season, and bringing in the Utah Mammoth name just kind of puts a cap on it. And it's like, okay, let's do this thing, right? We're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the next season. I can't wait.
It's going to be a fun summer. There are some big moves that are going to happen. We don't know what they're going to be yet, but the draft and then free agency, let's go. Let's take a break here. Coming up on the other side, we're going to go technical fouls, low-hanging fruit here, but I'm going to make fun of some jersey number selections for NFL rookies that have come out. Some guys are choosing some weird numbers for their jerseys. I want to talk about that and how important that is next. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Drop in for one of our delicious gourmet burgers made with 100% choice Grand Chuck. We're in Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, and Harriman. JCW's, quality, and a lot of it.
If you're coming from the street with dirty shoes on your feet, that's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
You'll get hit with a bat.
'cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
You heard it there, folks. It's time for Technical Fouls, the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, one of our favorite segments. Every single week, we get to talk about some of the sillier things that happen in the world of sports. Start things off going with Cam Scatterbo, running back for the New York Giants. Of course, everybody here locally knows him. They love him. He was with Arizona State last year, helped them make a push in the NCAA college football tournament there, the college football playoffs. Of course, he did a lot of great things for the Sun Devils. He was drafted by the New York Giants, and they announced the rookie jersey numbers the last couple days across the NFL, at least for minicamp, because these things change throughout the summer as people get traded or whatever and numbers open up. Anyway, Cam Scatterbo is going to be wearing number 44 for the New York Giants. Sean, do you know why I have an issue with this?
No, I have no idea.
Do you know what Cam Scatterbo's biggest knock was coming out of Arizona State?
No.
It's that he was slow.
Oh, okay.
That's why he wasn't an elite running back prospect, because he was very, very good for Arizona State. He's so hard to bring down. He's very tough, physical runner. He's going to pick up yards, but he's slow. He's very slow.
Okay.
I think he ran like a 4.6 40-yard dash, which is slow for a running back. Wearing number 44 definitely doesn't help that problem.
It does seem like a bit of a fullback.
Yeah, you know who wears numbers in the 40s? The slowest skill position players on the team. You know what number I wore my senior year in high school, Sean?
What's that?
48. You know what position I was?
Nuh-uh.
I was a fullback.
Okay.
Take a guess. Do you think I was fast or slow?
I'm going to, I'll give you credit. I think you're fast.
I was slow. Thank you. I was slow. So yeah, wearing number 44 as a player whose biggest knock is that you're not very fast, I think that's pretty funny. Not doing himself any favors there, but in all seriousness, we are kind of rooting for Cam Scatterbo, even though that he's kind of a Big 12 rival with the local schools here. I think everybody liked him. I don't know of anybody.
I loved him.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that really didn't like Scatterbo, and he's kind of got the whole underdog mentality, coming from a small school and then transferring to Arizona State, and then again, really just putting the team on his back. They wouldn't have made the push in the playoffs if it wasn't for him. So there's that. Also sticking with NFL rookie mini camps that we're seeing throughout the week. This came out just barely this morning. The Shedeur Sanders hype train has just got to stop. It's got to stop, and it's not going to. I know it's not going to. But this is so unfair to him, and things need to chill. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski was meeting with the media after their first practice, and you know what the first question to him was? Why did Dylan Gabriel get the first reps at quarterback instead of Shedeur Sanders?
Oh, my gosh.
I'll tell you why. Dylan Gabriel, 2nd-round pick. Shedeur Sanders, 5th-round pick. Also, it's rookie mini camp. who cares?
Yeah, somebody's
who's
gotta-
getting the first reps.
It's one or the other. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean anything right now.
You'll hear coaches say like, "Oh, I don't care about draft position. I don't know how much money. I don't care how much money you're getting paid. You know, I'm going to go with my guys." And that's how a lot of coaches operate. But the reality of it is the first practice of rookie minicamp, when it's these guys' first time ever stepping foot, you know, on an NFL practice field, yeah, you're going to go in order of where they were drafted, right? You're not going to put your 5th round rookie out there over your 2nd round rookie just because he's got a famous last name.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a little ridiculous. And I also saw a clip of Shedeur talking about obviously his relationship with Tom Brady, and they're pretty close. And Tom has given him some advice about falling that far in the draft, yada, yada. And Shedeur basically said, you know, my career is going to look a lot like Tom Brady's. And I think that's dangerous. I'm just going to say it. I think it's dangerous for Shedeur to be thinking and talking like that. Of course, you would like that to happen, right? Best case scenario. But the reality of it is 5th round quarterbacks typically do not last in the NFL.
Yeah, it's very few and far between.
My advice to Shedeur would be focus on making it in the league first before you worry about doing what Tom Brady did. And I know everybody that comes into the league wants to do what Tom Brady did. So you're not really separating yourself by saying that.
Yeah, I think having that mentality is a good thing.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be telling everybody.
No.
Because that just sets their expectations for you.
Again, it was embarrassing how far you fell in the draft. It's a circus, and it's going to continue to be a circus for probably the next year.
Oh, yeah.
360 whatever days.
The moment, who are they going to be trotting out as the starter? I mean,
yeah, nobody knows.
How many quarterbacks do they have? They're just going to be asking questions about him all year until he starts playing.
If Dylan Gabriel ends up being the starting quarterback, all they're going to talk about is when is Shedeur going to play. If Shedeur Sanders is the starting quarterback, all they're going to talk about is, oh my goodness, he fell so far in the draft. Who cares? Like, you're on the team. Go to work. Let the work speak for itself. So there's that. But I'm sure we're going to get a lot of Shedeur Sanders technical fouls again as this continues. My final technical foul for the segment. One thing I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, I'm not a fan of the way that the NBA does their season awards. I like, for example, the NFL, they do an awards show right before the Super Bowl. The night before the Super Bowl is when everything is announced, and it's clean. You know, they make a show out of it, almost like the Grammys or the Oscars, whatever. They make a big show out of it. They invite everybody. And it's very ceremonial, very professional. And I really like that. The NBA, I'll be, working or doing chores or whatever on a random Tuesday, and I'll get a notification. Cleveland Cavaliers forward Evan Mobley has won Defensive Player of the Year.
I didn't even know they were giving out awards already.
Right. And then a couple weeks later, most improved player, Dyson Daniels. Like it's a slow roll throughout the first couple weeks of the playoffs. And I don't think I'm the biggest fan of that. Because number one, it's hard, like you said, it's hard to keep up with. Sometimes it just flies right over.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as like, I've curated my Twitter to be sports.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't come across my Twitter, like how? That doesn't make sense.
I think MVP is the only one that has not been announced yet. Spurs guard Steph Castle, Rookie of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, like I said, Evan Mobley. Most Improved Player, Dyson Daniels. Sixth Man of the Year, Peyton Pritchard with the Celtics. Clutch Player of the Year, Jalen Brunson. Coach of the Year, Cavaliers head coach Kenny Atkinson. So, again, it's just a slow roll, and I don't think I'm the biggest fan of it because it just feels like it's not important when they do it this way.
Yeah, it goes by the wayside very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like the NFL is really good at keeping the hype of it all.
Yeah. And it's easy to remember, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I can barely remember. I don't even know who won it last year because they don't make a big deal out of it at all. So,
And it's
Not
a
a
big
fan.
deal for the players' contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
And that would be good to know going into an offseason.
Right. Evan Mobley in particular, this is actually a really big deal for the Cavaliers because now he's eligible for a Supermax. And, that type of stuff is important to know, but it's so easy to forget when they do it this way. So not a fan of that. I would recommend the NBA does it similar to the NFL. Like, just do an awards ceremony. And I get that it's not the biggest deal. Like, you're not going to get people tuning in because they've got to see who won NBA's Defensive Player of the Year. But, button it up. Button it up. Make it professional. Make somewhat of a deal about it. So, time for another break. Coming up next, we're going to stick with the NBA playoffs. A lot of fun basketball this week. The second round has been so much more fun than the first round. A lot to talk about. So we'll hit that next. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles calling some soccer, so he is not here today. But we still roll on. We still roll on, Sean. Let's talk NBA playoffs. This second round has been phenomenal. It has been not how we expected, and that's great. A lot of things to talk about. I think I want to start off, though, with the Cleveland Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell. They get the win last night, 126-104. Much needed win after they started the series off trailing 2-0. So now they trail 2-1. But they get the win in Indiana, and that's big. The big storyline for Cleveland is they had been missing some players. 3 key players, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, and Darius Garland, have all been dealing with various injuries. They missed the second game. They all returned last night, and Cleveland got the win. But it was Donovan Mitchell leading the way, doing what we've seen him do here in Utah, 43 points on 14 of 29 shooting. So a lot of volume there, but getting the 43 points is what matters most. Only 2 turnovers, by the way, for Spida. And on the Pacers side, it's Tyrese Halliburton that really struggled. 2 of 8 from the field, only 4 points on the night for their big star, who was a large part in them winning the first 2 games. So I don't know if the win last night really changes anything. I mean, it gives Cleveland, I guess, the confidence, but this whole series is really going to depend on the health and availability of those 3 players. Not to mention Donovan Mitchell is dealing with some stuff himself. I believe he's got a bum calf. So I don't know. I'm happy for Cleveland that they can get the win, I guess. But the unfortunate thing with this, Sean, is that Donovan Mitchell is always going to kind of be a what-if player, right? This is the second year in a row that injuries have really, really hurt the Cavaliers in the playoffs. And who knows what happens with this series or throughout the rest of the playoffs. Maybe Cleveland wins and they're able to go on in the next round and beat the Knicks or the Celtics and they get a shot at the finals, right? But the odds are pretty stacked against them with your injured players that are not going to get any healthier. And so I think just the way things are trending from what we saw here in Utah every single year in Salt Lake City, what we've seen from his 3 years in Cleveland, I just think that by the time Donovan Mitchell's career comes to an end, he is just always going to be one of those what-if players. And there's so many instances, right? What if, he stayed healthy against the Clippers in that series? What if Terrence Mann didn't go off?
Yeah.
What if they were able to stop Jalen Brunson? Like, what if his teammates were able to stay healthy? And he even dealt with that in Utah. Mike Conley got banged up. Bojan Bogdanovic got banged up. And there's just so many what ifs, and it comes to a point where it's like, okay, I know that Donovan Mitchell doesn't have anything to do with those injuries, right? But it's just odd that this is always surrounding him. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about this?
No, I don't know. I know he's kind of polarizing here in Utah, but I've always loved him, and he's so electric to watch. And I saw some highlights last night. I didn't get to watch the game because I was doing the bees, but the highlights I saw last night just threw me back to back when he was here in Utah, just making those plays in the playoffs, like when he took down OKC.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him over the injuries and all the what ifs because I like him so much.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people would agree with you. I know that he was the guy here, and he made some big plays in the playoffs, as you mentioned. I mean, my favorite series was the bubble series against Denver, and I know they ultimately lost that series again, like the shot at the buzzer. What if that goes in and they move on? Another what if.
The 8-second violation.
Yes. So many things, and it's just, I don't know, it happens again and again and again, and it just makes me wonder, I don't know if he's ever going to get over that hump, because he's a player that can really turn it on like we saw last night, but I don't know if he has the superstar capability to just, I'm going to go out and win a game when nobody else is going to do that.
Yeah, he absolutely needs another person.
Yeah.
Another star.
And again, the injuries are really hampering to this team. Evan Mobley, a great player. Just talked about it last segment, won Defensive Player of the Year. I like Jarrett Allen that they have over there. Darius Garland is a good player. His issue is that he's basically the same exact skill set as Donovan Mitchell, right? He's a small scoring guard that doesn't play defense. So I don't know if Cleveland has what it takes to continue to make a push. Definitely, I think last night's game was an anomaly from Tyrese Halliburton. He's not going to play like that in every game, and I know he'd been incredible the first 2 games of the series. Last night, he came back down to earth, but again, I think he's going to play up to his averages in Game 4. We'll see how that goes, but regardless, this has been a fun series, and both of the number 1 seed, or both of the top seeds in the East, the Celtics and the Cavs, trail in their series. Celtics will play the Knicks tonight. They trailed New York 2-0. Talk about that in just a second. But the other game last night, the Nuggets beating Oklahoma City in overtime, 113-104. Nikola Jokic had just about the worst game you'll ever see him play from the 3-time MVP. Still had 20 points, but an atrocious 0 of 10 from 3-point, and then 8 of 25 from the floor. He did grab 16 rebounds and added 6 assists as well, but you're never going to see him play like that. So as we're talking about with Cleveland, right, when their main guy is really struggling, who steps up for Denver? Aaron Gordon.
Yep.
4 of 6 from 3, 7 of 11 from the field, 22 points overall, but it's when he makes these big shots. And we saw, in the previous round against the Clippers, he had the game winner, and that was huge. But I was looking over Aaron Gordon's stats. I didn't know this, Sean. Apparently, in the offseason last year, he had an at-home gym installed.
Yeah, I read that.
And you take a look at his three-point percentages. Last year, he shot 29% from 3. Do you know what he shot on the season this year from 3?
No idea.
43%.
Whoa. Yeah, that's
so
putting the work in.
So last year, the 29% was a big dip from what he had been averaging, right? The seasons before that, he shot 33%, then 35%. So he did dip to 29. That was kind of an outlier. But jumping all the way, even from 35% to 43%, is a huge jump. It's
massive.
You don't see that happen. So, again, this is probably a bit of an outlier season. I would imagine that number will probably dip a little bit. But regardless, that's next season, right? We're talking about right now and what he was able to do last night and what he's done throughout these playoffs for Denver. Going up 2-1 over the overwhelming favorites in the West is crazy because this Denver Nuggets team is a team that just fired their coach literally right before the playoffs started. And, again, as we mentioned, Nikola Jokic, best player in the world, 3-time MVP, having a quiet game. So you need guys that can step up and do damage. Jamal Murray, of course, as we know, he can really light up the scoreboard as well. 27 points for him, 9 of 19 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Then you look over at the Thunder, Jalen Williams, who had a bad couple games to start off this series, he led the Thunder in scoring 32 points, so it's good to see him get back on track. After they lost that second game, there was a lot of talk about, like, you know, the Thunder are going to have to blow this up, and they're going to have to do something with Jalen Williams because they're going to owe him a big deal, but he's probably not quite worth it yet. But I don't know if that's the case yet. I think he made an all-star team this year. Of course, we know him a little bit locally because he's the brother of Cody Williams. But he has a lot of potential to be a real number 2 or 3 over there in Oklahoma City. But the problem is you need your other guys to really show up. SGA and Chet Holmgren, they both scored under 20 points. In a playoff game, that's not ideal. They actually both scored 18. SGA only got to the free throw line 5 times, which is very out of normal for him. He's one of the, I believe he led the NBA in free throw attempts, so not normal for him. And then Chet really struggled, 1 of 6 from three-point land. Yeah,
it's not what you expect from the MVP favorite. That award hasn't come out, but we kind of all assume he's going to win it this year.
Yeah.
And then for me, it just seems like the lack of experience in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just it comes down to big moments, and they're just not prepared.
That's a real thing, experience. And this is a Nuggets team, again, that they won the championship 2 years ago, right? So they've been there. And like all of these guys were on the team when they won the championship. This roster is not that much different, at least as far as the starting 5. The Thunder, we saw it last year when they lost to the Timberwolves. Like it's a matter of just knowing what to do in the playoffs and being able to rise to the occasion and play in these big moments and make the big shots when they count and come up with the stops when you need them. Defense, so much more prevalent in the playoffs than it is in the regular season. And it's just an experience thing, like you said. And the funny thing about this Thunder team is it seems like by the time they get that experience that they're going to need, it's going to be time to make some big decisions with this roster because you're not going to be able to pay SGA, Chet, Jalen Williams, and Hartenstein, and Lou Dort, and Alex Caruso. Like all these guys.
Yeah, that's a lot.
They've got a lot of talent. This is a deep team, so it seems like this is their window right now. If they want to make a push towards the finals, this is going to be the year for them. And they need to get past Denver. Of course, they trail 2-1. So we'll see if they can come back. But I like the way that Denver's looked in these wins. But, of course, Oklahoma City, best team in the West this season. So they're not going to go down without a fight. Going on to tonight's games, let's start with the Timberwolves and Warriors. I think this one is pretty easy to hit. The Warriors won the first game, right? But they lost Steph, and that's huge. Hamstring injury for an older player. Not looking good. If he comes back, I think at the earliest they said would probably be like game 6, if it even goes that far.
Yeah. I think they essentially said it was just going to be one game at first, and then Steph finally said that I'm not going to push this. There's nothing you can do. It's just got to let it heal. At least a week. We'll look at it in a week.
Hamstrings are tricky, right? And you can't really play through it. And if you play through it while you're injured, you risk an even worse injury, and they're just notorious for nagging.
Yeah, and I don't think, as far as I've read, this is like one of the first type of those injuries he's ever had.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a ton of experience. Nobody knows exactly how his body's going to react or heal with that injury.
And then Minnesota won the other night. They tied the series up 1-1. So can Golden State stay alive until they get Steph back? To be honest with you, I don't think so. We've seen Jimmy Butler do great things in the playoffs. He's one of the best playoff performers that we've ever seen, but I don't know if he can do quite enough. I really like what Anthony Edwards has done this season and throughout these playoffs. 117-93 was the final on Thursday, by the way, for Minnesota, getting the win over Golden State. So not too close of a game there. And you even saw Julius Randle come up with a big game. If you can get even a decent performance from him, all you need is for Julius Randle to not be a net negative.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think, getting that is I think Anthony Edwards is the best player in this series. Jimmy Butler is probably a close second. And then from there, I like Minnesota's team much better.
Yep.
Losing Steph is practically losing the series for Golden State.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I think it's only a matter of time before this series is over. Maybe Steph comes back for the final game of the series, but even if he doesn't, I think that's a very small likelihood. I mean, if they're trailing 3-1 and then Steph can make an early return, what's the point at that time, you know? Like you don't come back from a 3-1 deficit, but who knows? The Celtics and Knicks, the other series to go through, they play tonight, or this afternoon, I guess, 1:30 tip-off. Celtics trail 2-0, and we've seen some big performances from Jalen Brunson and from the Knicks. I think the big storyline here, though, is that the Celtics keep beating themselves, Sean. And I know that it's easy to make this point right now, but I've never been in on Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is I think it's a mentality thing for him. I think he has the perfect size to be a top 5 player in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think he's got a great size, great skill set. It's just the mentality thing. He focuses too much on wanting to be just like Kobe Bryant, wanting to, idolize Kobe Bryant. I said this when, so the NBA released their show, Netflix did the quarterback and the receiver show for the NFL. They released the NBA version of it. They had Jason Tatum, LeBron James, Anthony Edwards, Domantas Sabonis on there. And watching that show, my main takeaway was it would go from Anthony Edwards to Jason Tatum or whatever. And I would be like, if Jason Tatum had the killer mentality that Anthony Edwards had, he would be a top probably 3 player in the NBA. But he doesn't have that.
It was that obvious in the documentary or in the show?
I think it was. I don't know if a lot of other people took that away. But, and a lot of people like to bag on Jason Tatum. So
yeah.
I don't know. It just seems, again, killer mentality. And I know that's kind of a cop-out word, but it just seems like he doesn't have what it takes to come onto the floor and be like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm winning this series. I mean, even in the finals, Jaylen Brown won the finals MVP.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think that he maybe just doesn't understand how good he could be. I don't know what it is. And it's hard. I don't like to pile on him because the other thing that showed us was that he is an incredibly humble person. He seems like a great human being, right? And so I hate to bag on guys like that, but when it comes to the game of basketball, right, you got to be willing to be a little cocky.
Yeah.
You see Anthony Edwards in that series with the Lakers. He's pushing LeBron James up and down the floor.
Yeah.
He's jabbing elbows in his gut.
Yep.
Really irritating him.
Wins in LA, just starts walking around the city.
Yeah.
Out in the city, talking trash to people.
And that translates on the court. That
Exactly.
translates to his success. And it's not like Jason Tatum is a bum by any means, right? But I just think his ceiling could be so much higher if he just had that alpha dog mentality, the will to really be the best player on the floor.
You kind of saw it. I think it was game 2. They were up 20, and he just starts settling for threes.
Yeah.
Step back threes. Not even good, wide open threes.
I saw a screenshot. There was a play where the Knicks player was on the ground. I don't know who it was. He literally fell. He was on the floor underneath the basket. Jason Tatum had the ball at the 3-point line. Nobody in between him and the basket, and he takes the 3. The defender's on the floor.
Yeah.
And he takes the 3.
That's kind of the style that they play, but
yeah, they've
in
struggled.
those moments you gotta just get
all year. They've struggled with playing with their food, right? They'll kind of be lazy, I guess, throughout the first half of the game, and then be like, okay, I guess let's go win it.
Exactly.
Or they'll get a big lead and be like, okay, we're up.
Yep.
We win, but you can't do that.
Yeah.
Especially against the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, I don't want to make it sound like Jason Tatum is the only reason the Celtics are losing. Jalen Brunson has showed every bit why he was voted the clutch player of the year. Didn't really know that was an award, but 29 points in the first win, and then again another big performance in the second game of that series, and then Defensively, Mikal Bridges, I talked about this with Alex last week. He had a quiet first series for the Knicks, but he's showed up big. Bridges has for the Knicks against Boston, doing it more on the defensive end. He had that big takeaway at the end. Jason Tatum to tie into the last point. He went up for a weird shot at the buzzer and then last second tried to pass out of it, and Mikal Bridges got his hand in there, knocked it away, and ultimately won the game. But all in all, it's been a fun series. Both of these games have been really, really close for the Knicks and Celtics. That's going to continue on today. And if Boston goes down 3-0, I don't think anybody's ever come back from a 3-0 deficit.
Yeah, I don't think so in the NBA.
Because the 3-1 thing is so rare already. I don't think anybody has come back from 3-0. So I don't use this term lightly, Sean, but today seems like a must-win game for Boston, for the defending champs.
Yeah, I'd say so. Porzingis, I don't know. He's been dealing with that illness, and
that's kind of a crazy thing. Apparently, nobody knows what it is.
I know.
He's got some sort of virus that they haven't been able to diagnose.
It started back in March.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So hopefully he's okay, and he can come back and impact.
And going back to windows, kind of like we were talking about with the Thunder, like this is it for Boston. Because of the second tax apron and everything that entails with that, they're going to have to make moves to this roster after this season. And I don't think they're going to get rid of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, but key contributors like Porzingis, like Drew Holiday, or even some guys from the bench, Derek White or Pritchard, like you might see one of them moved or a couple of them moved. And
those are big pieces for their team.
They are
depth-wise.
They are depth players. They are key role players. That would be big. Those would be they will be big losses for Boston. So if you want to make another push for the title, it seems like you got to do it now, and that starts with getting a win on the road at Madison Square Garden. It's going to be tough. I saw ticket prices for this game are like $3,000.
Oh my gosh.
Hans and Scotty were talking about it yesterday. Like if you would have bought tickets for this game when the series started, they were like $900, which is already insane, but it's like a playoff game at Madison Square Garden, right? So if you would have bought those tickets, $900 at the beginning of the series, now with New York up 3-0, up to like $3,000 for the get-in price for this game. So
that's astronomical. I can't imagine doing that.
That's big. We'll see. Again, 1:30 this afternoon for the Knicks and Celtics, and then 6:30 tonight for the Timberwolves Warriors. And then tomorrow we've got the Thunder Nuggets, 1:30 tip-off there, and then the Cavaliers Pacers 6 o'clock tip-off tomorrow night. All right, it's time for another break. Coming up next, we'll get into 5 minutes of, hit a couple more topics from throughout the week. Some more big news. Cam Rising announced that he is medically retiring. We'll give some thoughts on that next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles, normally my co-host, out calling high school soccer today. Hope he's doing well. That first game is underway. If you care to watch, check it out at kslsports.com. But for us, it is time for 5 minutes of. Got a couple things to talk about left in the show. Hit them real quick. First off, let's start with this, Sean. Cam Rising, Utah legend, came out with a statement earlier this week. He has announced that he is medically retiring. This was interesting, number one, because, after the season ended, basically after he got injured the second time, right? Nobody really heard from him again.
Right, yeah.
Like people had not been seeing him. Yeah, nobody knew what was going on. And then just out of nowhere, he comes out with a statement the other day. This is what he said. Bad moon out. Due to a hand injury I suffered during the Baylor game, I've been advised by 2 orthopedic physicians that I will never be able to return to playing football. I'll be obtaining a 3rd medical opinion and will undergo the recommended surgery. I will continue to rehab and do all I can to get healthy. In the meantime, I will unfortunately be forced to medically retire from the game I love. He then goes on to thank his family, a lot of coaches, and other people involved with the Utah program that helped him have the illustrious career that he had for the Utes. And it's just crazy to me how abruptly this all came to an end. And it's ultimately a sad ending to, again, what was a legendary career. 2 Pac-12 champions for the Utes that they would not have got without Cam Rising.
Yeah.
Just thinking about, everything that he put out on the field for Utah. You ask people like what his signature moment was, and a lot of people will give you different answers, which is the great thing about Cam Rising, whether it's, him defeating USC the first time in that high-scoring game and the 2-point conversion there, or what about the other USC game where he gets hit in the head and his helmet comes flying off and he gets right back up and does the first down thing. Like that just shows how tough he was. He was a tough SOB.
Yeah.
And again, really just set the culture up on the hill for the Utes. But again, it's just crazy how quickly it all comes to an end because he hurt that knee, missed the whole year. Nobody knew what was going on. And then he finally comes back healthy and he's supposed to have one last hurrah on his way out.
Yep.
And then that second game of the year, he screws up his hand by getting pushed into Gatorade coolers that are 8 feet off the sideline.
It looks so innocuous. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just didn't look bad at all when I first saw it.
No.
And then he came out of the game and I was like, well, it can't be that bad. And then it just dragged and dragged.
Dragged and dragged. I got to know what the hell happened to his hand. I've never heard of a hand injury forcing a player to medically retire. Obviously, for a quarterback, it's different because even if you have a slight injury to your hand, that messes with your ability to grip the football and throw it. But that was kind of the rumor after that happened. Like he was really struggling with being able to hold the football.
And it was just reported as like a cut, right?
A laceration was the word that we heard.
Which,
of course, there was probably, that's just the beginning of the injury, right? The laceration was probably just like a side injury. That probably was not the main thing that happened.
Yeah.
And with college sports, of course, like they don't need to reveal.
Yep. And Coach Whittingham famously does not like to talk about it.
Exactly. So he eventually did work his way back. What was that? Arizona State when he came back, and then unfortunately got hurt literally, what was it, like 2 series into the game? And it's just, that was that.
Yeah.
And for all the great things and amazing moments that he brought to the Utah football program, it felt like we never really got to say goodbye.
I know.
And that was the hard part.
Yeah. Just having to go out not on his own terms.
Right.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was really, really unfortunate. So shout out to a great career for Cam Rising. He is returning to his alma mater high school in California. He's going to be the offensive coordinator there, is the rumor. So sounds like that is the first step in the next chapter for Cam Rising, and wishing all the best for him. We'll see what happens with that. But like he said, even though he is technically medically retiring now, he is seeking a third opinion. He is going to get a surgery. Who knows what that's going to bring? Maybe he's going to try to make a run at maybe signing with an NFL team or the CFL or whatever. Who knows? But maybe he just is like, you know what? It's time to close that book. It's time to move on. So, again, shout out to Cam Rising because he had a lot of special moments here for the state. Couple minutes here. Let's talk NHL playoffs real quick, Sean. We are seeing some exciting action in the playoffs. Defending champions, the Florida Panthers, they trail the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-1. Kind of a surprise there, but again, Austin Matthews is one of the best players in the NHL, one of the top scorers in the league. So, it's not a surprise really that Toronto leads the series, but Florida did get the win last night in overtime to get a game back in the series. And then the other game we saw last night, the Winnipeg Jets, they beat the Dallas Stars 4-0. Mikko Rantanen, the big acquisition for the Stars at the trade deadline, he had back-to-back hat tricks and then goes scoreless, pointless last night for the Stars.
Almost non-existent in that game,
which is kind of crazy. Connor Hellebuck, the goaltender for the Jets that we had talked about last week, really struggles on the road, but then at home shows us why he's one of the best goalies in the world. So that's kind of weird that he's got the whole home road thing going on.
Yeah, that's pretty rare in in hockey especially, it's usually a goalie's dialed. He's dialed. Doesn't matter
Right.
where he's playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of people saying Helly back last night.
Helly back. I like it. Some other series updates. Edmonton, they lead the series 2-0 against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I believe they're going to be playing today.
Yeah, they play at 7
Right.
tonight.
7 o'clock for Vegas and Edmonton. And then Washington and Carolina, the other series that we have. That series is tied 1-1. Of course, Ovechkin, the big storyline there for the Capitals. How far can he go? Not many people think that this is going to be his final season, but some people would like to see him go out raising the Stanley Cup. I watched a couple of the Hurricanes games in the Devils series, and I really liked what I saw from Carolina. So
Yeah, they're really good. They're a complete team for sure.
right.
The Capitals are just, they should win this series, I think. They're a much more complete team, I think. They've got a lot more bruisers, if you want to call them that.
Right.
And yeah, the Hurricanes are good though. They're definitely capable of winning that series.
Again, when it comes to hockey, right, similar to the NBA, like you need your top star.
Yeah.
But it's not just star power that matters. Nope. It's everybody else.
You need all 4 lines.
Yeah, you need a good goaltender, and then you need the perfect kind of complements on your lines, whether they're role players that can also score or bruisers, like you're saying,
Yep.
that can go out and really just bully the other team. Are you surprised, though, that Vegas trails Edmonton going back to that series?
Yeah, they do not look like themselves. I mean, the Oilers are on a heater. It's 6 games in a row that they've won coming back. They've been down in all 6 of those. So yeah, I'm kind of shocked if that goes 3-0. I mean, Vegas is done for sure. They just have the Oilers have the two of the best scorers in the world.
Yeah, and it was funny looking yesterday. I really thought the Stars and the Maple Leafs were both going to win, and they both lost. But those series are far from over. Again, the Jets and Stars are tied 1-1, and then the Maple Leafs are up 2-1 over the Panthers. But do you think that is there any shot of getting a Edmonton Oilers Florida Panthers rematch, or do you think Florida's buried behind Toronto?
No, I think it's a very real possibility to just have a rematch from last year.
Yeah.
They both look really good. The Leafs are very good, so it's hard to say that Florida's definitely coming out of that series. It's going to be a war. I think it's probably going 7, and I think whoever wins that series is going to face whoever wins Oilers Knights.
Okay, calling it here. You heard it from Sean. I really like Austin Matthews. Again, one of the top goal scorers in the league. Another player to watch for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mitch Marner. He's a name that you've heard a lot here in Utah because he is slated to be a free agent. If he is, Utah has one of the highest amounts of cap space going into free agency. So they will be able to make a run at whatever big fish are in the pond. And if that's Mitch Marner, that's a huge get. 102 points on the year from him, and key player for this Maple Leafs run. 75 assists, 27 goals from their big defenseman. He's a wing. But just imagine, a top line of Cooley, Keller, and Mitch Marner.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
Very, very nice. Very nice.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up next, we will wrap this show up. It's a Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles not here today. He's calling high school soccer. Go check that out. Boys State Championships 3A is underway right now. 2A will come later in the day. KSLSports.com if you care to follow that. Wrapping up the show, last segment, we talked Cam Rising medically retiring. We talked a little bit about NHL playoffs. Sticking with hockey, Sean, we've got the World Championships underway. Couple local representatives from the now Utah Mammoth playing a key part in the big win. First game of the tournament. I almost said Utah. United States gets the shutout 5-0 in their first official game over Denmark. Maddie Beniers had 2 goals. Cutter Gauthier and Mason Lorai had a goal and an assist each. And then our very own Logan Cooley he had a goal as well. Michael Kesselring, in a depth role for the team, he had 2 assists. And then the goaltender, Joey Decord, he had 26 saves in the shutout. So dominant performance to start things off in the Worlds for Team USA. Clayton Keller is the captain of the team, by the way. No points for him yesterday, but I imagine he'll get going. The next game is tomorrow against Hungary. You can watch that on the NHL Network. A couple other things going on the station today. As always, we've got Real Salt Lake playing. They are coming off a loss last week. They lost 2-1 to Vancouver. They will try to get back on track today. They are at FC Dallas. First kick there is at 6:30, but of course you can hear the pregame show an hour beforehand, like always here on the Zone. Pregame show will be at 5:30. We've also got the Salt Lake Bees there at the Sugarland Space Cowboys, Sean. 6:20 there for the Bees.
Yeah, they need to get a win to get back in the series.
Did they win or lose last night? You were
They
producing.
lost. They've lost 3 in a row.
Oh, man. See, I'm the good luck charm there. They won the game that I did last week over Albuquerque. So, yeah, go check out the Bees. And then, are they home?
Yeah.
They are home. That's what I thought. Get out to Daybreak. If you're not doing anything today, go check out the new America First, the ballpark at America First Square, I believe is the official name. All right, thanks for tuning in. It's the Saturday Show. We'll catch you next week, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.